What is up, and welcome to another video of the Better Mix series. Today we're going to be talking all about mastering. We've been working on this track over the past about 7 videos, and today we're going to jump into mastering. We've mixed everything. We got the drums sounding good, the bass to jive with the drums. We did a lot of electric guitar, acoustic guitar, and some keyboards, Rhodes and organ. And we added some really cool effects to this track. If you haven't seen the first videos of the series, I highly recommend watching them. The link just popped up just now. Go watch that. But before we get into this video, if you're a little confused over EQ and what kind of settings to set for compression or saturation on vocals, and you're just kind of learning how to mix your own vocals, I created a completely free Ultimate Vocal Preset Bundle that is over 30 presets for EQ, compression, and saturation that you can use on your own vocals and load them into your computer. So go to celladorsound.co/free presets and fill out the little form. I'll send the presets to you, and it even comes with a free training video that walks you through how to set these into your computer so that they're easily accessible on your own plugins, and also how to slightly manipulate them so that the presets work for any vocal that you use. I've gotten so much good feedback off of these presets, and I'm myself am very proud of them. So I hope you go get them. They're completely free, so go grab that. All right, let's get into this video. Let's just play where we're at so far before we dive into this mastering. All right, so the song is in a really good spot. The drums are nice and full. The bass, I can hear the bass with it. The acoustic guitars are really what's driving the song. And then you have the electric and the organs kind of just around everything and still filling up space. And I can hear every single instrument. And that's kind of where you want to be with your mix. All right, so the first thing with this track is that I have added this master track. So if you are on GarageBand and you've never seen this master track, all you have to do is go to Track, and then you would select Show Master Track right here, Show Master Track. And this just shows you the track that basically when you're seeing the audio here where your output is, this is basically kind of the same thing. So everything in your entire mix all gets summed to this master track, and this is what you're actually hearing. All right, so I've already preloaded a couple plugins on here, and we're going to walk through just 3 different plugins, and we're going to kind of quickly master this track into a good spot. So the first thing that I want to tell you is that we're actually a little bit high right now as far as overall gain in our mix. We're shooting up here pretty heavily up here. Normally, I'd like to stay around the 60, well, about the 70%, 70-80%, which is a little bit lower. Because how I record these videos, it's just so much easier for you to hear everything if I kind of mix stuff hotter, so that's the only difference. Otherwise, throughout your entire mix, you should kind of be shooting to be right about here. And the biggest thing is that you're not distorting. You don't ever want your mix to go super far in distorting, because all these mastering tricks I'm about to show you aren't going to mean anything, because if you're distorting, then you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot as far as trying to do a full master. All right, so the first plugin we're going to get into is this compressor here. I've shown this in a bunch of my videos, but it's just so good. It's actually a master compressor, Kotelnikov mastering compressor. It's really great. I will leave the link of all these plugins in the description so you can go and grab them. They're all completely free. I don't ever put any paid plugins on this channel because there's so much that you can access that's completely free. And I just want to show you what is out there and how far you can go with these plugins. So what we're going to do on this guy is I'm going to turn him on, and his threshold is set really good, 2-to-1. I want a light compression here at the start of my mastering chain. This is just to kind of glue everything together, and also is going to give us a much easier piece of music to work with as far as whenever we go to limiting. So I'm going to keep this at 2-to-1, and then our release RMS here, I'm actually going to lower quite a bit. We're going to go to about 80 milliseconds to kind of match the peak guy. And then basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn up this threshold, and I'm going to watch this gain reduction right here, and I want to be about -1-ish. I don't usually like to go past -2. So very light compression. We're just kind of softening those hard peaks that are in this track. Let's try it. All right, so this is a very subtle thing. All I really hear is whenever I have this off, everything sounds good, but as soon as I turn this on, it kind of glues everything together and everything kind of just, I don't know, is a little bit more congruent, and it really helps. And all we're doing is just getting a slight gain reduction here. We don't really want to be slamming this compressor. This is very, very light. If you slam this thing, as soon as you get down to the limiting, it's going to start to sound kind of intense, and that's not what you want. So we're going to stick with this guy. Sounds really good there. The next thing we're going to add is some EQ. I typically, whenever I'm doing masters, is I like to look at the full audio spectrum of the track, and I like to compare that up against other songs that I think are mixed very, very well. So I can't quite do that just because of copyright reasons inside this video, but normally what I do is I like to bring a track in that I really like, and I'll solo it, make sure all my mastering stuff is off, and then I'll actually take this EQ right here, and I'll cut all the highs out and listen to my mix, and then solo up the mix that I really like, and see if my low end is similar, see if it's really muddy in comparison, if it's not clean, and then I'll do the same thing with the high end. I'll kind of grab this guy and go all the way up, and push play and listen to my mix, then solo out the mix that I think is really good, and just make sure there's nothing that's like overly harsh or overly weird, and then I'll use this plugin to kind of start to carve out some of that stuff that I think is wrong. And it's basically just using it as a reference, because sometimes you can get really in your head when in mixing, and if you don't have something to kind of look at and reference, you might be way outside of the box. We're not trying to necessarily copy that other mix. We're just trying to make sure that we're as clean as we can be. All right, so after I do all that, a big part of it is to really look at the high end and the low end. Is my high end and low end matched? Do I need a little bit more? And this is a great plugin for that. So for me, altogether, I feel like I need a tiny bit more high end, a little bit more sparkle, and this Fuse Audio Labs RSW2395C, that name every time. It's too much, but this has a very, very, very good high-end character that I think will be nice for this track, and then I might add a little saturation with this drive. It's a very easy plug-in, free. Link will be down below. Let's try. All right, so all I did here was add just a tiny bit of high end at 5K. We're at plus 2.6 dB. It just added a little bit of sparkle that I liked a lot, and then I added some drive. You could hear when I pushed it all the way up, it was heavily distorting. Still didn't sound horrible. So I kind of split the difference, a little bit less than the difference, and I think that it really helps the track out a lot. A tiny bit of saturation can help a lot of times in a mix. And the thing is normally with mastering, how I'm looking at this is everything I'm doing is very, very small amounts of things. If I'm mastering a track and I realize I need like 12 dB of high end, I know something's wrong. But there's something in the mix that I didn't do correctly, and I need to go back and look at the mix. It's the same thing in the low end. If I'm cranking the low end and I'm still not getting what I need, then something's wrong with the mix. That's a telltale sign that something's wrong. Because in mastering, you really only need to be barely pushing up some stuff, and it makes a big difference. Otherwise, just cranking everything up, and then it kind of just you can't add what's not there. is the key to that. So that's something very, very, very important in this entire process. All right, and then now we're going to talk about limiting. So this limiter is actually pretty good inside of GarageBand. I have struggled to find a really good free limiter out there that I like. If you have one, feel free to comment, and if there's something that you really like, I'm always down to check it out. There just hasn't been something that has worked better than this to me that I have found. I'm sure there's something out there, I just haven't found it yet. But the key thing here is our output level. So this is how we're going to make our track have more volume and bigger and all those different things. And the most important thing is to get this output level here and turn it to -1. especially if you are going to be putting your music to streaming or to YouTube or anything like that. There used to be this big thing about loudness wars, and everybody was trying to make their music insanely loud, and that is all changing because streaming basically, if your music is going above -1, they're going to turn it down. They're going to turn it way, 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 way down, and you don't want that. You want your song to be big and full for those listeners, right? So you want to make sure that this output level is -1, and that you're also not completely crushing this limiter. You don't want to make your song so insanely loud that you're just destroying it, because they'll punish you for that. They'll turn you down even more. So we want to be careful with this. And one thing that you could always do as well is the same thing, that reference mix that you bring in. Just turn off all your plugins and push play and listen to it and solo it out. And then mute that, turn on your plugins, and see if you're close volume-wise. But we can also do it by ear and just get it loud but not over limiting. So let's just try it with this track. All right, so this is a pretty good setting here. You could hear whenever I was up at like +10, it was just really pumping. Let's listen to that. I get mixes like that all the time, and that's hard to hear when you're doing it correctly. But practice, when you're doing these limiters, practice over limiting, just throwing this knob all the way up and listening to what that sounds like, because that's really important, because a lot of people can't hear that pumping, nasty kind of driving sound, and it does take a little bit to learn what that is, but it'll help you so much if you understand that and dial it back. Because I'm not getting any pumping with this +6. It's plenty loud enough, and this song is ready to be sent out. So last thing I want to show you is, as far as mastering, is how you actually export this. So first thing, you probably already know, but we're going to select this entire song and make sure that we have the whole thing here. Yep. So our little yellow cycle guy is selecting the entire track. Okay, and then we're actually going to go to our preferences really quick and go to advanced, and this auto normalize, export projects at full volume. So I always say to unclick this, especially when you're learning how to use limiters, because if you have this clicked and you set your limiter up slightly incorrect and it's too quiet, this is going to turn it up anyway and in a way that you may not want. And so you'll bounce your projects and think that you're kind of doing this certain way. And then if you move to any other DAW or you move to a system that this isn't on, you'll realize that all your masters are either too loud or they're too quiet. And this will normalize stuff. Even if you're way over pumping it, it'll kind of bring that whole volume down and you won't notice it as much, but the song is just going to be over limited. It's going to be crazy. So in general, I always say to turn this off. And then the last thing is to go to share, export song to disk. And then when you are typing this out and naming your song, of course, you want to make sure your wave here, and then you need to be the CD quality, uncompressed 16-bit CD quality. That's a big part of it. And then I always just export cycle area so we get the exact length of song that we want. And then we just name it. We'll call this master and export. And that'll export through. Definitely always check it. Check your songs on more than one medium. And that means in your car, on your AirPods, if you have like a home system. And I always recommend to take a few hours before you do it and just relax after you export, just get your mind out of it, and then go and listen to it on all these different things. Don't mix and master and then go straight to your car and straight to your whatever. Give some time, let your ears rest for a second, and then and then listen to your track and make notes, and then come back in and adjust and then do it all again. And that practice will help you have a better master, better mix 100% of the time, I promise. So thank you so much for watching this video. This is the last video of the Better Mix series. I hope you have enjoyed this series so far, and I'm very excited for the next videos that are coming up. There's a few surprises in there, and I'm stoked for you to come along on this journey with me. It's awesome. So have an awesome week. Make some music, release more music, and I will see you next Monday. Peace, guys.